Welcome back, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the workbench, getting ready to test and inspect another smoothing plane. This time, we went up a notch in price to the Veritas smoothing plane. Veritas 4.5. Okay, this is the standard Veritas 4.5. Now, I'm not sure if this is a brand new one or if this is a demo, because I had said to them, if you have to send a demo, send a demo. But I think they might be new. You get a nice manual with it, all the instructions, which I'm sure I probably should read because I know in my heart that these are going to be somewhat different. Okay. It starts out with no plastic bag, which is a good thing. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to have to wipe off gobs and gobs of oil. And this may very well be a demo, which is okay. That's what I said. So, as always, we need to start with, how's that song go? Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. You know what I mean. So, you're not here to hear me sing. Or maybe you are. I don't know. So, it's still set in pounds, so we'll start there. 5.092 pounds. And that translates to 23.09 grams. Well, 2309 grams. All right. We got that. As to the length, it measures 9 13/16. So it's just under 10 inches. And it's just under 10 7/8. So, and the width, two 7/8. And we don't need to go any further because that measured a solid 2 7/8 inch. So, as to flatness, okay, it is pivoting on a center point about here. You think we can get through this whole thing with the same piece of paper? Okay, the front is loose. It is grabbing, but it is loose. It's tight under the mouth, tight under the frog, tight under the tote. In the back, it's tight, but I can pull the paper out. Once again, in the front, it's loose. Under the knob, loose. Under the mouth, tight, 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 tight. So, what is that telling me? And I was forewarned by another one of our viewers to not use the phrase, now that's different. But it is. So let's get the feeler gauge out. 1 1/2 thousandth under the knob. And it goes all the way under and slides right out. But nowhere else. See, I can pull it. It begins, it begins right from the mouth forward. So flatness minus 1.5 thousandth in the front under toe. And we'll find out why as we look into this further. Now, as to the cheeks, they're going to be a little bit harder to measure because there isn't a lot of excess here to measure from. I'd like to measure here. That will require taking the lever cap, which is not a lever cap, it is a screw, and take the blade set out. And then we can get in here and measure the cheeks. Oh, this is a little tricky because the cheeks are not straight on the inside. Well, we'll do the best we can. Point 175. Point 1. That's about the same. About 173. So 0.175, 0.173. And as to the squareness, to the sole, the left one there's a little bit of gap at the top. Just 1.5 thousandths off, maybe 2 thousandths. We'll call it 1.5 thousandths. Then on the right, the right doesn't look like it's off at all. There's a sliver of light coming through. It's less than 1 thousandth. So square plus or minus 1.5 thousandth plus or minus under 1 thousandth. So once again, that's acceptable. So now comes my question. And I can't feel it. But since the frog protrudes the sole and is ground flat with the sole here. And I'm not so sure. Yeah, she's flat enough. So, next up would have been the lever cap, but this is a screw cap, cast. It has been fettled so that the center section will mate with the cap iron. And the cap iron on this particular plane is the rounded bump style cap iron, which I like. This has already been sharpened and honed, so we can just give this a pass because it does its job. It's a pass-fail type of thing. On to the cap iron and cutting iron. Nothing odd or special, just a little bit different shape and style. The cap iron screw is knurled. And it is more than likely the same size as every other one, 5/8 inch. So the screw, 5/8, knurled. As to thickness, it is the thinner style. So that's 25, 50, that would be 75, 074. And as to squareness, yes. Yes. I would only assume so, having been a used plane. So this is good to know, though, that It is the old-fashioned Stanley type cap iron. Cutting iron. Thickness, 0.1. That's right at 0.1. Can't get too much more accurate than that. 0.1 inch. And the width, I didn't check the width on the cap iron, but that's 2 3/8, 2 3/8, 2 3/8. We're good. All right. 25-degree primary looks like. Yep, 25. And I'm not sure how they sharpened this, if they kept this completely flat or if they used the ruler technique. I think they kept it completely flat. And there is a small, ever so small micro bevel on here. So this was already sharpened once, but we'll get back into that again and touch it up. And it should be square, and it is. So 25-degree primary, 2 3/8, and it is square and square. Now, into the belly of the beast. You know, one thing we really haven't talked about is if the cap iron is mating properly with the cutting iron. I really like knurled screws back here, but I do not see any light passing through there. And I really like this top cap iron being thinner because when you tighten the screw, it pulls it down. Now, into the belly of the beast. They are using the Norris adjuster, which is a one-piece component. You either like it or you don't. And this will do your lateral, and this will do your advance and retract, both together. The difference between the bedrock style and this for frog adjustment, and how was this set? How tight was this set? Not very. And if I remember correctly, yes, I do remember I had one of these years and years ago. One of the features of their frog adjustment is they left a screw hole here so that you can go down through the lever, the cap. You go down through the cap, through the blades, and you can loosen the screw that holds the frog in place, because you can make adjustments from behind, from back here. Okay, so in this case, we want to move it forward And the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, let's take it apart and look more closely to see what I am actually doing. If this screw is loosened from above, I now can advance and retract the frog. And there we go. And then you have two places to tighten it down, one in the back, one in the front, and you're good to go. That is a very interesting concept. So you go down in here, you loosen that. You loosen that screw from above. You loosen this nut from behind, and then you can use this wheel to move your frog forward and back. All right, so the lateral is the part of the Norris adjuster. And here too, the more you tighten it, the more you tighten the cap down, the more pressure will be on the blade set so that you can't accidentally push it. You need to use your lateral. And that will also make it harder to advance and retract the blade. So you're in full control of that. Very nice. So for the yoke and the adjuster, we have the Norris. And it's tight. You go from advance to retract in 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4, just under 1 full turn. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. Yeah, just under 1 turn. Let's call it 7/8 rotation. So there you have it, everybody. Two other things we have not discussed is the knob and the tote. Looking at them, I am assuming, and I know I shouldn't, it could be on the box, but I'm assuming they're walnut. Doesn't say. I'm sure somewhere in here it says, and they look like walnut to me. But it did say that this is ductile cast iron. And that was a comment that would be good information to share. Is it gray cast iron or is it ductile cast iron? I'm assuming most of the modern planes are going to be ductile cast iron. Now, as to the knob and tote, this is their tall knob shape. which allows you to get your fingers underneath it, whichever you choose. It does not have a screw in the top, so I can only assume that there's a screw inside of it that tightens down. And I'm not going to try taking that apart. And the tote is attached with a long threaded rod that goes through this metal piece, this extension off of the casting. Well, it is actually part of the casting, but it's not part of the base. It's part of the frog. And there's one screw head in the top portion of the casting. The frog is quite an interesting casting. It comes up and helps, and the handle, the tote attaches to the frog, and the tote attaches to the frog on the bottom. But the tote does not attach to the body. The knob does. You miss anything? So, there are a couple small features here that are unique to Veritas, and that is there are two little set screws on either cheek down where the blade comes through. And what they do is they help center the blade so that when you take it out to sharpen it and you put it back in, it registers right back in the same location. So there's that. Like, subscribe, and share. Hope you're having a great day. I didn't yawn in this one. Walter out.